Hello there. Good morning, good evening, good night. Happy Memorial Day. Thank you guys for tuning in here to NFT Live on the Web3 Network. About to get started here on a Monday. I'm excited to get into some of these stories. It's a lot of quick news. That's what we usually get on Mondays. A lot of the weekend kerfluffle kind of makes our way to our dashboard. So good to see you guys. Happy Memorial Day again. Thank you, and we want to take that time to salute past and present service members in the United States military. Thank you guys so much for what you do for us on a daily basis. I mean, you're kind of the reason that we can sit up here and do what we want to do in this country. So we appreciate that.
Yes, and you definitely used the word kerfuffle in our opening here. Kerfluffle is that's a word.
That is a word, actually.
Yep. But we would not be able to be up here and speculate and shit talk about JPEGs if it wasn't for our tremendous heroes and heroines of our armed forces. So salute.
Yeah, thank you guys
to them.
Yeah, thank you. Listen, I'm a dependent as well. So dependent of 2 military service members, retired now. I've got uncles, aunts that have served. So shout out to you guys as well. But yes, past that have given, as Prodigy's saying here in chat, some that have given the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you so much.
Many that have. If we're talking about the whole history of the U.S., many. One of my several of my uncles were in the armed services, and one of them was actually a parabomber or a paratrooper, like literally jumping out of out of planes. You know what I mean?
Jumping out of train sounds dangerous.
Train sounds dope too, but jumping out of planes, in Vietnam and shit, like that's wild stuff, man.
You got to be called to it for sure. Kerfluffle, a commotion or fuss, especially one caused by conflicting views.
It's kerfuffle, though. You said kerfluffle, and
did I say that?
I was right. Just like I was about art gobblers. All right. Anyway.
All right, folks, we're just getting started here on NFT Live today. You know how it goes. Troy, nice to see you. Prodigy as well. We will wait for people to start rolling in to the show today. We've got a ton to cover. Nakamigos. We actually caught the bottom. We caught.
We?
Yeah. I'm living through you, vicariously through you. Nakamigos, pumped over the weekend. Reddit avatars. We're going to touch on Paradigm, chasing the latest shiny object here, or potentially protecting themselves from the SEC. There's a little bit of that as well. But I'm going to drop this. I'm going to drop this link in the chat. If you guys can give it a like, it definitely helps folks get up in here. But yeah, we got a packed episode today. I'm gonna start this as well with calling out Sarah Script. Sarah has an open edition currently on OpenSea, and I'm going to let her tell you about it because she can do it way better than I can. So let's hear from Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Richardson, or as you may know me online, Sarah Script. I'm the artist and calligrapher behind this collection, Holy Script, which is a generative calligraphy collection with over 100 words and phrases. Some of those words are virtues, some are silly words, and some are profane. I started practicing calligraphy over 9 years ago, and I found strength in my own voice through this art, and I hope to share this art form with the world. Each word or phrase in this collection was hand calligraphed by me. I also arranged the dried flowers for the borders and edited those as well. I found inspiration for letter forms from sources that date from the early 1900s all the way back to the 1600s. This collection is a dedication of the discipline of penmanship, the beauty of writing for ourselves, especially in the time of AI writing tools, and finding strength in your own voice. I'm so thankful to Audio Galleries and OpenSea for this opportunity, and I really hope you enjoy the collection.
What'd you think about that, Gifted?
What don't I think about? I think a lot of great things about it. I love Sarah. She was on the show on GM-Web3 talking with us about it this morning, and we're actually doing a special collaboration now in our own way. We are we are airdropping DBs to anybody who mints a holy script before these finish minting. The OpenSea mint was extended 24 hours, so it will be on OpenSea for just another 24 hours. And if you mint a holy script, there it is. You can see it right there. That is the mint page. They're only like $35 for a very limited, very special project. Calligraphy NFTs are not a very common thing. So I think this is pretty special from an OG artist in the space, a very, very special person and talent like Sarah. So just $35 for her first ever big OpenSea collaboration and first generative calligraphy project. I think it's a steal, but to add some extra specialness to it, we are airdropping a DB's NFT to anybody who mints one before they finish minting. So you just got to send us the link so we have proof of script. And yeah, we'll airdrop you a DB's companion. So there you go. We're doing that. And we wouldn't do that for just anybody. It's a Sarah script special and a Memorial Day special.
Why not? Yeah. It's an awesome episode here today. We have a Memorial Day like special edition here. So I appreciate that giveaway. Apparently there's a lot of folks celebrating Memorial Day too. And everybody's feeling the effects here, especially like it's a slow day right now. What's going on? Get people in here. Apparently everybody's putting a little shrimp on the Barbie here while we go live. I do have one other highlight that I want to play. And if you are joining us here on your Memorial Day, we appreciate you so much. But I do have another highlight GIF. I don't know if you've seen this yet because I don't think you brought it up on the GM Web3 show this morning. But apparently Kevin Rose was talking a little smack on BAYC. So apparently Kevin Rose was in a space this morning. You can actually see Sarah's in the space. But this is getting a little run on BAYC Twitter right now. Because I haven't even listened to it, but at TLDR, he talks a little shit on the floor price of BAYC comparatively fallen to the Moonbirds. So I haven't even listened to this. I want to see what he says, and then we'll get a reaction.
Realistic. It's just like, I was doing the math yesterday on the Bored Apes collection, and granted, obviously Moonbirds as a percentage is down more than Apes is, but in terms of a dollar amount, Apes is actually down more than Moonbirds. Meaning, if you had bought at the peak of Bored Apes and you held today, dollar for dollar, you would have lost more money. Now, granted, the cost for the actual ape was more, but it's not.
All right. Yeah, that was about as clownish as I expected it to be, just based on everybody's reaction. That is not the type of energy that Top Collection should be having in this space. And I don't know if the Bored Apes attacked Crow first. I don't know if he's defending himself in this moment, but that is not the type of energy that we need to be having from like a leader in this space, saying, "Oh, our floor price is down, but have you looked at Bored Apes?" Like that is just not it for me. So that's kind of an L from Crow on my side.
I agree on your initial take that I don't think it's the right energy for leaders or for the space to move forward productively at all. If you're a leader of like one of the biggest projects in ecosystems, and this is your messaging, like this is where your focus is, trying to what about what about their floor? What about that? Yep. Instead of just focusing on your own project and your own community, it's poor. I think it's poor. I think it's not great, and it also feels like max cope. Like it feels like coping.
Yeah. Again, we don't have the context of what was said right before Kevin made those comments.
Yeah, but that's fair. We might be taking it very out of context, and that happens a lot. So
yeah, but he well, listen, we heard his voice there and say those quotes about Bored Ape price, and honestly, like I don't want to get too far into the weeds on this one, but like Moonbirds is down bad. Like Moonbirds is down bad from a percentage standpoint. For him to just use the USD standpoint because Bored Apes were, so much, that's kind of being facetious in my opinion too.
Yeah, if we're trying to give like the alternative side of the story and give everybody a break, right? Shit's not easy when you are like he is a face. He is a fully doxed leader of one of the biggest projects under probably more pressure and scrutiny than almost anybody. Like there's very few people in the space that are fully doxxed, that are under as much scrutiny as he is. That's trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, right? Like, so when you're under that much pressure constantly and people are constantly coming at you, then you have to start to look at things at all different angles and try and explain and paint a picture that's not as bad, and, you know, try and tell your side of the story. Let's give him that. All right. It's not an easy spot. He's dealing with a lot. He's under a lot of pressure, and it's not an easy picture to be trying to explain to people right now, and to try and, you know, counter narrative, you know, it's hard. So I'm just trying to give him that. Like that's the other side of it. However,
no, go ahead.
However, it feels like coping. It feels like whataboutism, and kind of like a cop out to be trying to point fingers at other projects, I think is weak. And it gets back to what I think is one of the shittiest, most insidious vibes or energies or parts of the space, which is the zero sum game, right? Which in a bear market, when liquidity is leaving, it feels like that. Mm-hmm. But when you give in to that feeling or mentality of zero sum game, like it's either our project or their project, like we can't succeed unless they fuck up, or unless we're dogging them. Like we don't look better unless we shit on another project. That zero sum mentality, I think, is so fucking toxic.
Look, I agree all over the board with that statement, and it's not just because he's using Bored Ape as a punching bag here. I have another one, and I don't want to say on this either, because it does feel like we're kind of like falling in that same trap, but we're really covering what's happening in the space right now as well. It looks like he went on and was talking about Pudgy Penguins. So I haven't heard this either. I don't know what he's about to say. Good luck, I guess.
I'll give you a great example. Like Gary launched plushie toys, you know, into Toys R Us about 6 months ago. Is it that long ago? Something like that. Yeah. And it didn't do anything.
Right.
And then Pudgy Penguins comes along and does it, and it just, like, you know, their floor price goes up, and people are like, oh my God, this is a game changer. And I don't want to FUD Pudgy Penguins, because I think they have a great CEO in place now, and good things are going to happen. But I just, it's so weird to me that it's just like that one company can do, they can basically do identical things and have different outcomes, you know, right. Just depending.
But okay, it sounds like he was on one in this Twitter space. But like, what Gary did is not what Pudgy Penguins did. It's an Amazon digital marketplace. It's different. You could draw similarities with their physical products and phygital plays, but they're definitely not the same executions. They're different IPs. But that's not the point. What really irks me about this is that I think his quote verbatim there was, I don't want to FUD Pudgy Penguins because they have a great CEO in place and good things coming. Okay, but you'll FUD Bored Apes, even though they just hired like the CTO of Activision Blizzard, and I have the fucking other side. Like, what's your also Amazon digital marketplace, Toys R Us stores?
It's just different, but I don't know, man. It sounds like, again, the pressure is this. It sounds to me like he is one really shitty, you know, comment from Prez before he goes for it and get the fuck out, yes. Bro. Like it sounds like he is on like just thin, you know, like hanging on by a thread. If these are the types of conversations and assertions that he's going to be going and making publicly. And again, like back to why I hate this is because people look up to you, dude. Hey, Cairo. People look up to you in the space. I'm talking to you. I hope somebody clips this and sends this to Cairo. You are a leader. Be a leader. Don't go out and talk shit about other leaders when your project's down. That's not good leadership, in my opinion. I don't think this is setting the best example to go and choose the easiest fucking target, which is Bored Apes, and talk down on them to try and make yourself look better. I just don't think that's true leadership. And that's my opinion. Again, and I understand how much pressure you're under. So Cairo, I feel that for you, man. You're in a tremendously difficult spot. but you're a
Yeah.
leader, man, and people look up to you, and you're setting an example for this zero sum mentality of, hey, I know things are down, but look at them, or fuck them. If they're shitty, then or if they're worse than us, then like you can't be mad at us. Like, okay,
It's a really good example that you brought up with Doodles, and it's a window into the life of some of these founders and where they find themselves right now, because both founders basically are saying the same thing. Like, not necessarily, like, Crow didn't go out and say, Floor, get the fuck out to the people that are holding Moonbirds, but you can tell by the way he's talking that he's in a spot, and the only way this makes sense.
It's defensive.
Yes,
That's
and
what
Prodigy and Prodigy is saying he sounds like Trump just talking bad on Twitter and digging holes. And I know Crow's not doing this, but like the only way this would make sense is if he is trying to fill that narrative of like getting the Moonbirds into, the not mainstream, because they are, but like getting them into the conversation and it being like kind of a baddie to make that happen. But that's not Crow. Like that's the thing. Like, he's all kind of positivity-ish like vibes. So it's not him saying, I'm going to attack these projects so we can get more, sentiment around Moonbirds, and like we're going to do the what do they call that technique when it's like the bashed, oh God, what's that technique called? When you're kind of like close down the hatches and we're gonna go through this together, and it kind of creates a bond with people that
circle
are
the wagons,
something like that. It's a very esque mentality of like creating this feel within the community that we're all in this together and like everyone's attacking us
versus them. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know how much more time I want to spend on this, other than I agree with you that I don't think this is like a really strategic move. Like, I don't think he's saying, hey, we're gonna rebrand ourselves as like the edgelord toxic, like we're gonna be out here fucking talking smack and competing against other projects, and that's how we're gonna get attention. Like, my thought is that I thought they were trying to be the artists PFP project. I thought they were about art. I thought they were about like building on collecting and being for collectors. So it's like, if that's not your strategy, then this just to me feels like a little bit defensive, maybe even slightly desperate, to your point of like trying to keep some conversations out there and like not make themselves look as bad comparatively to other people. I don't think this brings positive conversations your way though, and I don't think it's good leadership. And possibly, if I was going to take that and extrapolate it further, it shows again the need for real leaders in the space. Like, a lot of people have been propped up in this space as being leaders. And I think we've seen over and over again that so many of those people that the space has lauded with so much credibility, and so like they're brilliant, there's so much money, let's give them all of our fucking money and follow these people and hang on every word that they say. How many of them are actually true leaders that have real experience, that know how to handle the stress and building out a tech company, a global brand? How many of them can actually do this or have any right to be managing the organization or the funds that they've been given? I think this just, again, shows me that maybe Cairo isn't suited for this particular job. Maybe he is, and this is just a moment. Maybe this is, maybe he's just bored.
We haven't even talked about Proof Collective, because Proof Collective is down 100-ish plus ETH from the top. So if you want to talk about USD value, look, floor price can sometimes be armor. Like, if your floor price is doing extremely well as a founder, you don't really have to, answer a lot of questions about this stuff. It's really when that armor is peeled away that you start to get to the heart of a lot of things. So Omar is here, GM OVOT. Hope everyone has a great start to the week. We are going to have a great start to the week. I know we wanted to cover that because that's like almost happening in the last 24 hours, and I think that it was something we needed to talk about, but I don't want the whole episode to be like that. So Justin Casey is saying elephant walk, ?
I have no idea, but I would point to as like a counter to this sort of defensive posturing zero-sum game shit, what I think Star Lord doing, which is being like, he's also very out there in the community and probably faced a lot of targeted questions from people around what's going on with Oni, but he is like a just positive force and constantly talking about the partnerships, the things that they're building, what's coming next, this comeback that they're on, where it's going to be years, talking about vision stuff, where it's going to be years from now, where are we going to be this time next year, where are we going? He's very forward looking, very positive. He's not out here talking shit about other projects or making excuses for what Oni's been. He's like owning it. He's owning the Oni situation and then painting a vision and executing on a vision. That to me is the difference between him and some other leaders or quote unquote leaders.
There's definitely a dichotomy there, because Star-Lord wasn't the initial like founder, right? Like he's coming in as the kind of savior in some ways to the Oniverse.
But he came in at the bottom when it was like, what the fuck is going on? It's been a year and y'all are at the bottom. Like he was with them previous to that for like a year during the worst time. He proved himself through that to get the role. So it's like, yes, you're right that like they have shifted a narrative now and things are looking more positive than they've been. But I think you're forgetting where they've been and how they got there, right? That's what I'm saying, is that like to me, Cairo and Poopy and these guys could take a note out of what Star-Lord is doing. That's what I'm saying. Look at how he's responded and changed the narrative.
Yeah. No, I got you with that. I like that. I think there maybe some of the vitriol that's placed toward Crow and Poopy, for example, is not as much on Star-Lord's shoulders, which is what I would say. I know he's getting some. He has to.
It's definitely gone
at
Oni. I don't know if it's gone directly at him, because he may not have had that primary front-facing role during the most toxic parts. So that's fair. But I know he gets it.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that as well. Interesting, like 28 and 29 here. Like we're on the NFT price floor. Moonbirds and Doodles, the exact same floor price, like the exact same. That is wild. Like for them, I just think that's a really interesting tidbit. Okay, we are going to get into the remainder of the episode here. Before we do, we definitely want to say upfront that this is not financial advice. We are not financial advisors. We are not legal advisors. Do not do anything with your bags based on the information that we talk about here on the show. That is not the purpose of NFT Live here. It's just to kind of document what we're doing in this space, as well as kind of working our way as a tribe through whatever this wild, wild web is.
Yes, all that. And I just like talking about cool shit on the internet, man. I don't know. I just like talking about like what everybody else is into and what I think is interesting. So that's what I'm doing here. Hang out with you, hang out with my boys, and talk shit about JPEGs. Smash the like, fam. Yo, happy Memorial Day. Give us a Memorial Day thumbs up while you're at it. We really appreciate it.
We definitely do. And we are going to get to the remainder of the episode right now, actually. So I want to bring up some positivity. We've been touching on CyberKongz. Like we had Nakamigos pump, but did you see the CyberKongz pump?
No.
Look at this CyberKongz pump. We were just talking about them. They were like sitting at 7 or 9 ETH. 15 ETH, folks. So I mean, that has to be... There has to be something around. Like that's a lot of ETH to jump in just a weekend. But over the weekend, we saw a pump from 9 essentially to 15. It's probably due to low liquidity, right? Like if you have low liquidity, you're likely going to see like larger jumps both ways. But this is, I mean, that's awesome. There's a little bit of a response here from what they've been putting out on their Twitter.
There's only 1,000. If we're talking about the OG Genesis CyberKongz, there's only 1,000. That's a big reason why. And because things have been so beaten down, this is actually, I think, and I apologize if you can hear that beeping. There's something happening outside my window right now. But this is actually why I've started to buy back into floors that I believe in. Like this is an example of why. And that is that if you look across a lot of the big established undervalued, quote unquote, undervalued blue chips or big collections, the trend that I've seen is that most of them have 2% or less listed. And what this is saying to me is that the majority of these have gotten so low that like people have just decided, all right, I'm not selling at this point. It's too low. And it feels like a bottom. Like when you get to a percent where you just look at all of them and there's 2% or
holders.
less, it's just holders now. Everybody's out. So that's why I'm starting to say like, okay. And with that few of them listed, the floor goes up very quickly.
Yeah.
To your point. So when you've got a limited supply of 1,000 and only a few of them listed, that's why you can see these crazy jumps like that in the floor price. It doesn't mean that there's a lot of people buying at 15 ETH necessarily right now. It means that there's nobody else selling below that now.
Yeah, I'm interested in this activity too. I'm going to give a look on NFT Go and see what activity took place, because again, only 1,000 listed. This could be like 4 sales. You know, like I need to go check NFT Go right now, actually. But
it's probably not that many.
No, it probably isn't. But to the point, like the floor price, you know, saw a significant jump. So we were covering CyberKongz here. Thank you again, Hash Rhymes and a couple others that are in the community. We have a CyberKongz community member as well that is hopping on for a Wild Wild Web episode. So I'm super excited to get that down. We've got a lot of great guests lined up. Like it was actually GIF, like bringing this podcast back was something I've been wanting to do for a long time. And I don't think it's harder or easier now, but I was surprised at the lack of response I got on Twitter DMs. And I was like, what the fuck's going on? Like, what's happening here? And then they all flooded in at once. So we got a lot of really great guests coming. I think people just maybe are just not checking Twitter DMs as much and what have you. So we have a lot coming up. Harry Liu from Forge that we brought up is going to hop on to talk about ApeCoin DAO and what he's building at Forge. But a lot of great guests are coming up. But go ahead.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I know you've been working on it for a while. That's super dope. And I can't wait to learn more on the wild, wild web from some of these thought leaders in the space and see what other guests you got cooking up. Yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe everybody just has been tired, taking a break. I think the conference, the tour, you know, was taking a toll for a while. And I think a lot of people have been kind of recuperating and maybe getting ramped up for the summer now, getting excited about summer plans and shit before they kind of take off. But yeah.
Troina said, I suggested yes in the replies. Would you prefer a DM? Yeah, if you could DM me, I'll go back and check our replies to NFT Live and see if we had any guests potentially fall through the cracks there. So we're doing our best there. This is one of my biggest pet peeves in like all of NFTs. It's nothing big, but when these collections are tied together, it's tough to actually like monitor what's actually happening. I think Gutter Cats has this same problem. But like I can't track the OGs on here without like going into different filtering. It looks like a lot of babies are being bought up and sold as well, but I can't seem to find where the OG sales were. So I'll continue to kind of look at that. I'm interested to see how many were bought, but yeah, big pet peeve there. All right, quickly, I'm going to get to the chat. Justin Casey saying, what a soap opera this space is. Marty saying lots of dunking on Crow, and boy, is it deserved. What a tool. Look, that was a tool comment for sure. Told you our gobblers and Royland were pedos. I'll probably get banned off YouTube for saying that one out loud.
Marty McButterworth coming in strong, swinging on Monday.
Yeah, Gifted brought in Starlordy to that conversation about leaders in the space, and he did post this earlier today, I believe, or over the kind of midnight time frame. May 31st, State of the Union, special guests, major and minor updates, the big announcement. Think of it as our Oni Day event, like Apple Day, but Web3. And that can only mean bad things for my estimation that these are going to go back to 1 ETH so that I could pick these up. Let's see where Oni Force falls today. So it's been holding about 1.5 for a long while here, and a long while in the NFT space. So maybe about a week or two. But yes, we do have an Oni Force pump. I was hoping to purchase them in this like area here. And I don't know if they're ever going to fall back down to that 1 ETH, but if they do, I'll be waiting. All right, well, you're spamming me here. What do we got?
We can come back to these. I mean, you know what? We're talking about check-ins. So you know what? The Nyan Cat one is a cool check-in. We had Chris, PR Guitar Man, creator of the famous Nyan Cat balloon character and meme. And we had a nice check-in with him about like what's going on with the open editions. I didn't know that he's kept it going. There's a season 2. If you scroll down, you can see some badass new ones. So like keep going. So I mean, you got that spicy one, but this one, like the cheeseburger, the aqua, the UFO, multi neon, like this is fucking dope. Like he's kept these going. And again, the way that this all works, it's based off of that early open edition, early 2023 open edition burn mechanic situation where you get the different colored balloons and then you can redeem them, basically burning them for some of these more rare ones. There's only 28 of these right now. So this is season 2, and he actually leaked kind of like a little bit of alpha. There might actually be a season 3 eventually. But anyway, I thought that was a really cool follow-up here from Chris, and super love, having him join us on GM Web3 and come talk. He said he'd come on NFT Live too, by the way. So let's work on making that happen.
Yeah, interesting.
Do you want to add?
Yeah. So we actually again had him on the morning show this morning. Asked him a question, basically saying, "Hey, if you had to do the open edition over again," and maybe I put him on the spot. Maybe he can, maybe we can ask him again, and he'll give us a different answer. But he basically said nothing. He was like, "I thought the type
COVID.
of open edition we did." Well, he said COVID, but that's.
He said he was sick the whole time, which was awful, but that he felt like it was very successful.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like you think somebody that did an open edition or did a certain distribution would like have something where it's like, oh, I'll change that. He was like, no, I thought it went swimmingly, and like I would do it the same way again.
Almost 1,200 ETH on secondary on that open edition. So yeah, it did very, very well. And again, I think that's a really cool check-in. Another check-in that we want to look at probably is Nakamigos. Maybe pull that one up on NFT Go or OpenSea real quick, because if y'all been watching and paying attention, we had a target price around 0.2-ish on these, and I at least pulled the trigger. I swept a little bit, got 4 Nakamigos around like 0.21, and it's looking like a solid call so far. Let's say
we're
that.
We're sitting at 0.53. No, if you're asking out there yourself, did Q pull the trigger when they made a call on NFT Live? You should automatically think no, until I tell you otherwise. But Gifted did call a little bit of the bottom here. So we were sitting at like what was the floor price when you actually pulled that trigger?
I got in around
like
0.21, 0.2-ish. Yeah, 0.21, 0.22 maybe. They got down just below 0.2, I think. Like I think maybe there was a couple that sold around like 0.18 or 9. But yeah, 0.2 was around the floor, the bottom that they got. So yeah, who knows again, but right now, if I was to go take WETH offers, I would have 2 or 3x'd, in the last couple of weeks or a month on this. So I've listed 2 out of 4 higher than the floor. I'm going to hold them, hope that they keep going up, but I don't know. We've had a lot of calls this year. A lot of them are looking pretty solid so far. And I'll also say this. I've been putting in bids on a lot. I actually bought, this is just a quick update on some of the other floors that I've been watching, putting in bids on, starting to buy back into. So I'm going to go ahead and real quick show y'all a couple other quick.
Choina, great move, GIF. I grabbed a Naka at 0.2 a few weeks back. Congratulations to you, Choina. This is one thing before we hop into the screen share here. This is one question I get a lot is like, what are you kind of doing in the space besides building the network? Like one, that takes up an exorbitant amount of time already to do and pull off correctly, and will continue to kind of be a majority of my time. But like the ability with you, for example, to be on the front lines and see a Nakamigos enough and be like, hey, like based on what I know, this is the trigger that I'm going to pull right now. Like even in a bear market, like people are getting absolutely wrecked over time. And even in a bear market, if you play your cards correctly, some are going to hit, Nakamigos being one. You said you're up like 3x from your call, but that's an example of what, you might be doing at home or obviously what we're doing up here. If we're pulling the trigger, you can still do that in a bear. And it takes, I think, more than one person. Like you're kind of, I feel like we're kind of oftentimes filtering back and forth within our community of like, hey, what's the information that you're seeing? What is the information that you're hearing? And, putting our minds together, we're able to make calls like that. And that's what part of our job is.
That is literally what we do here. We provide free alpha. We're doing this for free. So again, if you haven't smashed that like, if you haven't subscribed, like we keep showing up to do this for free as a service to try and provide the highest quality editorial, entertainment, and education that we can, specifically for that reason. Like there's too much info, Q, for any one person to try and sort through. But if you all come together with y'all out there in the chat, with the friends in this community, with our amazing co-hosts and contributors on GM-Web3 and on this show, we start to source the signal from all the noise. And that's a big process, which is why we put so much time into it. But that's literally what we do here. So these are some of the ones that I've been picking up. Obviously, a bunch more dead fellas. I got 5 more dead fellas already. I think I'm holding 8 dead fellas now. I'm so bullish on dead fellas. We've been talking about them forever. And they seem like they're getting towards a bottom. Like, I don't know how, like maybe they go down to 0.2. Maybe they do go down a little bit further, but I don't think that I find it so hard to believe that dead fellas would go below a 0.2. So I don't know. None of this is financial advice, fam. I'm just showing you some of the things I've been picking up. So I got 5 more badass dead fellas. I really love that black and the pink one, the black background, the pink background. I got a subduck, showed that one. And then I actually picked up an oddities. So that weird looking thing is a Moonbirds oddity. So I am officially part of the Moonbirds ecosystem now. And I might try and get 1 or 2 more. I do have bids in to get some more oddities, because if the mythics are coming, then you can burn to redeem a mythic, and that'll be deflationary for the oddities. So I was very conflicted or ambivalent about getting the oddities, because I don't love the art really. I know it's Gremplin, so it's like a famous artist. I don't really love the characters of the IP. I don't think that it's an IP play. I don't think that the oddities ever really become some really cool IP, although I could be wrong, because if you've seen some of the animations of the Moonbirds that they've done recently, where you see the pixelated Moonbirds in like their 2D version, maybe they could do something like that with the pixelated oddities, and it does translate well. But I don't look at the oddities as a great IP play. I just see it right now as utility and maybe a good entry point, given that there's going to be the mythics coming. So I picked up one of those, and then I of course got 2 holy scripts in there and my Nakamigos that are there. Those are the recent purchases. I got some other bids in, but those are some of the floors that
so one that I've been keeping my eye on here while we're on this topic is Kodas. Kodas, like, we're sitting at about 10 ETH probably a month ago, like month and a half ago. And I was looking at it and thinking, hey, that's kind of undervalued at 10 ETH. Like they were sitting at, I know that's crazy to say.
Yeah.
But there are projects. Yeah, exactly. There's projects like that are, far more that like expensive, that probably are going to have less utility in the future. Like Kodas are going to be a major part of the other side. They're going to be a major part of different, things you'll be able to do in the other side, i.e. work your land and other deeds. Like we already know those have been talked about. So yeah, they were sitting about 10 ETH 6 months ago. I thought they got up to some absorbent number, but maybe NFT price floor is not giving me everything. It said April 7th is when they started tracking them, apparently. So I don't think we're getting the full picture here on other side Kodas, because there was probably that moment with codependence. I think that's what happened, is when they made that switch to dynamic NFTs. I think that's where the price floor was different. But anyways, I'm looking at Kodas right now saying, hey, 6 ETH, whenever the other side comes out with this third trip, or whenever we get more alpha on what the Kodas are going to do, any details in that perspective, I think Kodas are going to run. And again, that's not financial advice or anything like that. But Kodas, like, I'm asking myself, do I want a Koda or do I want a mutant right now? Like, and mutants, I think, are sitting at like 9. So I'd rather have a Koda, in my opinion.
So wait, the floor is around 6? Is that what you said?
6.2. 4,800.
I don't know if I could even pull together 6 ETH liquidity at the moment or not to get one, but like, you got me kind of thinking about it, not gonna lie, because I agree with your sort of thesis here that Kodas are gonna be intrinsic, like they're gonna be so key to the whole other side experience. And the reason that we think that is that they were embedded with the land. Every single like announcement or piece of art or video that's come out about the other side is focused around the Kodas somehow and their lore and their storytelling and the speculating around how the Kodas fit in. And now you've got the Koda Maras, and even the Mara Lord, legend of the Mara is somehow built off of the Koda IP. You know what I mean? It's like, the Kodas are clearly so fundamental to the whole other side that I find it hard to believe, to your point, that they won't hold a tremendous amount of value. Will it be more or less than 6 ETH though? Like, will it all be worth that much? I don't know, but they're pretty limited, right? There's what, 15,000? Or no, it's 10K, right? It's just 10K.
It says 4,800.
4,800 Kodas?
There's not a ton of Kodas. So not everybody was dropped Kodas on those land pieces.
So less than 5,000.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So unique ownership is also at 70%. So that's like good. There's a lot of like indicators there. I think it's so dependent on the other side narrative that when you get like a lull, and I'm calling it a lull, even though other side like is putting out some crazy shit recently, like when you get a lull, like you have this like depth of price, and then the news starts coming out. All of these different pieces like lead me to believe Kodas are going to be worth. I don't think it's probably the best flip. Like Kodas are not probably a good flip when you're talking about like looking at the floor prices on a lot of these. Like even something like Utes that's like at 1.3. Or some like lower value NFTs like we're talking about, like Nakamigos, even Oniforce. I think like Kodas are probably not going to outperform them on a percentage basis, but as a long-term hold, as something that from a risk reward standpoint, you're like, this probably has a chance to like hold value or go up. And again, none of this is financial advice. That's what I'm looking at. Like I'm going to hold one for a long period of time. Not I'm going to buy, I could probably buy 5 Oniforces and do way better on a short-term time frame.
Can we look at the Utes? I think that's another good follow-up because, we were checking in on them quite a lot around the migration from Solana to Polygon to see how that was going. It seems like overall it was a big success. And, look, they're pumping back up. So it looks like they were around 2 ETH when they migrated. Then they dropped down to about 1.4. And it looks like they're pumping back up close to 2 ETH now.
Yeah, Utes is another one that, like, based on everything that we've seen in the market over the past probably like 6 months to a year, like their sentiment on Twitter is extremely strong. Like their community is extremely strong, and those are ones that are going to be part of the next cycle. To be pretty frank, so. All right, before
that next cycle, can't wait.
Can't wait for you. So excited! Please come fast or pause. NFT Go Bagcheck. We are getting into. I'm going to make the best transition of all time. We use NFT Go to track analytics and data across the NFT and Web3 space, and we are going to do so today. So we're going to jump into the NFT Go Bagcheck. Excited to check this out.
Bagcheck.
I was way more excited to check this out, and then the market sentiment was the coldest I have ever seen. We are sitting at 17. We're extremely cold on the market sentiment, folks. So, yeah.
Well, Paradigm doesn't do Web3 or crypto anymore.
It's a good time. When that's heating up, they probably get back in. But blue chip index is over the last 7 days, kind of holding steady here. We've got a USD rising in USD. So if we zoom out to 30 days, we're seeing at least a pump off the bottom for the blue chips. So we will continue to follow that. Market cap and volume. Volume's been holding pretty steady as well over the last 7 days against ETH and rising in USD. So a lot of NFTs are holding their prices. ETH is pumping. I think ETH was pumping based on the debt ceiling news that the debt ceiling was rising there. Over the last 30 days, not as nice on the market cap side from USD. About the same for ETH. So we got some good indicators there and some not so good ones there. So that's kind of been the same thing we've been dealing with for the entire month of May and a month before that. So we did see that really nice pump there in January, February, and then have been kind of cooling off since. All right, the collection distribution over the last 24 hours and 7 days. Let's check out 24 hours. Nakamigos. Wow. Coming in at the top spot is Nakamigos, Mutant Ape Yacht Club, Bored Ape Yacht Club, Pudgy Penguins, the captains, Beans, Azuki, Milady, Doodles, and Bankler. I don't know what Bankler is. I'm excited that Remilio Babies did not make the list today. That's really nice. That's a really good. Really happy about that. Milady's over the last 7 days with the volume increase. But yeah, I think the floor price is still wrecked. I think there was a bunch of sales there.
Elon.
Mutant Ape Yacht Club, Bored Ape Yacht Club, O'Peppin, Pudgy Penguins, Wrapped CryptoPunks, Nakamigos, Azuki, DeGods, and Art Blocks coming in at the last spot there on the top 10. And
by the way,
yes,
it looks like one of my Nakamigos already flipped. So, hey, how about that?
I wish I had the flowers. They took away my flowers. All I have there is like, I've got like a weird, come on, Restream, do better. Do better. All right. Rounding out the NFT Go Bagcheck here real quick, we got Blur with the trading size lead, and it has been for a long time. So looks rare. Let's come on. Looks rare is still, taking in almost half ish, probably a third of OpenSea, and Blur, of course, is doing the most volume there. 7 days for the trading sizes, of course, are going to be a little bit different. So OpenSea has a strong lead against Blur there on the trader side. This is what we know to be true already. So X2Y2, Looks Rare, Foundation, Element, OKX, Looks Rare, Aggregator are all just. I mean, what do these companies do at this point? Like I'm worried that these, and I'm not necessarily worried.
Get into blending and or blending and try and do better than blend.
Like these won't be here in a year or two, right?
They shouldn't be there already. Look at them. I mean, why are they still there? I mean, yeah. How do you have to relaunch with something different or new if that's where you're at right now?
Yeah, Rareable's in that same take, right? Like Rareable's tried Rareable 2. They've tried, revamping, relaunching. It's a tough space to be a marketplace, man.
That's a great question. What do y'all think? Let us know in the chat. What would Rareable have to do to win, to come back and compete with Blur and OpenSea? Given that they've got the Rari token already, it seems like they could do something with that, but
well, they are though. Like they've already tried to revamp it and do rewards, and it's like, again, it's tough. I don't know. It's a tough question to be like, hey, how do you compete as a marketplace?
Rareable's an interesting case study to look at because they were early. They by all means should have been a bigger competitor.
Yeah.
And they had the tokenomics early. Like they should have been a competitor. It's so what is it that Rareable didn't do, or what did they do wrong? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is it just the UI was a bad experience? Because that to me was honestly the biggest issue. It was I didn't like the UI. It felt clunky. It felt awkward. I didn't get it where to go a lot of the time.
I think that's the easiest answer, and the low hanging fruit is the UI. Like if it's not fun to use, then you're not going to use it. They also botched a lot of the token pieces as well. Like they dealt with a ton of wash. You want to talk about wash trading? Like Blur, I think gets a bad hand with the wash trading piece. I think they're incentivized lending or incentivized trading. Rareable actually had a ton of wash trading problems. I think they botched the launch of the token, and I think that led to, again, not capitalizing on the release of the token. So, yep.
There you go.
So this is what so Troy is bringing up a good point. They could explore the ordinal space. I think this is where Magic Eden has done extremely, well. I think Magic Eden,
pivoting into open pastures.
Dude, they completely, I think, have a majority of the vol. Now, let me know, Troy. I know that you're following Ordinals. I'd love a follow up on that as well as they get set to launch. I would love to track floor prices on a lot of these Ordinals. If you guys have, I know Crypto Slam is a great one for interoperability and interchain stuff. But Ordinals would be one I would love to follow up on as we caught them as they launched. So.
There was a website that we found early. I don't know, but maybe this is a good one. Bitcoin Ordinals Floor Tracker, Ordinals with a Y. Here, I'll drop this one if you want to try this out and see if you like it.
Yeah, I'll check it out. All right. Speaking of Blur, we did have a couple announcements on the exchange side that I thought were interesting. I know Gif, you got one here in chat for me that I'll pull up. Let me see. So I'm going to bring up this piece first. The Binance marketplace basically launched NFT loans. So everybody's getting into the lending game here, and Binance Loan for NFTs is going to potentially try to be a competitor to Blend again. So lending, I mean, this is again a maturity. This is how I look at it. It's a maturity of the space. You are going to have financial products around these pseudo financial assets at the end of the day. Like if you have the ability to do so, people are going to create these products.
I agree with that, and the way that I look at it is these are the types of things that put gasoline on the next bull run
100%.
and actually get you back up to the crazy speculative levels of 2021. This is why I think that, I'm not trying to like call out Marty, but he's been one of those people in our chat that's been very bullish and saying things like,
Oh, bearish.
I don't think, sorry, very bearish, saying, I don't think NFTs are ever going to be worth the same again, or saying that, basically we peaked in 2021 and it's all downhill from here. Like that type of sentiment. Again, I'm not trying to call out Marty. I just know he's been one person that I've spoken to that has had that very sort of bearish take on where we're at. This is why I think it's short-sighted, because as the technology and the market evolves and matures, to your point, there's even more infrastructure and tools that support things like leverage, like things like speculating in different ways. And so again, when the macro shifts and there's more liquidity and people feel a little bit richer, if you think that they're not going to be speculating again on JPEGs with all of this additional firepower, like I think you're crazy personally. Like I think you're just focused too much on the pain right now and not on what happens a year from now when things are very different.
So I 99% agree with you. I am full on board with the idea that like adding products like this are going to have a gasoline on the rocket ship. Like you're going to be when things are going really well, they're going really well. When things are going really bad, it can cause things like mass liquidation events and things like this, as opposed to if you're just holding. The one thing I would say is if you look at Bitcoin over its lifetime, and this goes for any asset, and I've said this multiple times, like when more people find the asset, it gets less volatile. And what I mean by that is even though Bitcoin is at 28,000 or whatever it is, and we likely will see like 100K, people are predicting more or whatever. The most volatile Bitcoin's ever been is when it was moving from cents to dollars. And that was when there wasn't a lot of products around it. So it's this interesting dichotomy of like when there's low liquidity, like we're seeing with the CyberKongz, for example, there's more volatility. But I 99% agree with you that the addition of all of these next products as well as people will lead to probably levels we've never seen, in the same way we've seen ETH and Bitcoin run up from in their different cycles.
Yeah. And it's not to say that like the easy button is going to come back per se, like that whole, like, almost anything that you got into early back in 2021, you could make money on, you know what I mean? Or if you just launched a decent project and got a little bit of hype, like it would sell out. Like, I don't know that easy button is returning, but what I'm saying is that quality projects, especially ones with track records, if you don't think that they can still reach new highs, I think that's wrong. I just think that absolutely quality projects that have track records, that are doing real things, that are creating strong communities, when shit turns around and there's a lot more liquidity, I think you can absolutely see new highs on a lot of these projects.
Yeah, I agree with you. I want to bring up one thing. Actually, let's close out here on the Blur lending piece. Do you want to touch on this?
Sure. I mean, it's obviously relevant to what we're talking about. NFT-fi is going to be a bigger and bigger thing, especially when you start to get, more case studies that are successful as this has been. It's absolutely insane that in just basically 3 weeks since launching Blend, their lending protocol for Blur that is fully integrated into their marketplace with token incentives, they now control over 80% of lending volume. 82% of lending volume in the NFT space is now on Blend already. So $308 million in loan volume in just 22 days, which is again 82% of all lending volume, which is just 375 million. So 308 out of $375 million of lending volume in May is all on Blend.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring up one piece here too, dude. It's Blend has become so successful that this volume currently represents 46.2% of the exchange's operations. That's, to me, that's
almost
wild.
half. Yeah, almost half of the marketplace's business is already in NFT-fi and lending. So this is exactly why Binance is saying, hey, where's our lending product? This is why you're probably going to see more of these lending tools coming in. And again, all of this creates more leverage tools, especially when they compete. I mean, if you get more competitive versions of this too, that's good for the lendees, for us, for people that want to take advantage of DeFi with NFTs.
Look, if you can figure out the product, I've sat up here on this table and pounded my fist about products like Aave, where they make it very easy, where you don't have to I don't want to go down a decentralization rabbit hole, but you could essentially lend out your ETH or your Matic or what have you, and it's in a smart contract that doesn't have to be worried about from a BlockFi perspective or an FTX perspective, where someone's going to take your money and run away with it. It's in the smart contract. There are security risks there as well. I'm not saying it's completely risk-free. You're also able to take it out immediately. It's a simple transaction. So you can earn on Matic and ETH by the second and then literally take it out the next second. And it rolls into that APY as well. So it continuously compounds. There's all these really cool aspects. And people might want to do that with NFTs. Even retail users might want to do that. There's again...
Is there a minimum for lending ETH on Aave? There's
0.
No minimum. So
0.
I can just go put 1 ETH in there?
Yes.
Okay.
It's probably
what am I doing? Why am I not? Jesus.
It's probably wrapped ETH, right? It's probably some type of wrapped ETH, but so I don't think you can just transfer.
So you don't know. You don't have your ETH on Aave.
No, I used Matic at the time. So I was staking Matic, making X amount, for the longest time. And then, I wasn't staking ETH. So I had my ETH on Ethereum, and I had my Matic at the time. I was and I still am a big proponent of Matic overall. So I was trying to earn more Matic.
Marty asking, hey GIF, are people still wearing masks to grocery stores in LA? Some people, but I get what you're trying to say. You think that what happened in 2021 was entirely based upon the unique circumstances of a pandemic, which a lot of it was. But that doesn't take away from the fact that you now have a proven out market for JPEG collectors with a developing, maturing infrastructure, and that human nature for wanting to buy, sell, collect, and speculate on art isn't going to change. So
yeah,
yes and no. Agree to disagree. If you're you're not going to convince me with a pandemic situation, and also you're not going to convince me that there's not going to be more pandemics in our lifetime. So if even the argument is that we're never going to get back to that place, I still disagree with it, because I think there's going to absolutely be more scares and pandemics in our lifetime that can recreate similar situations.
You also didn't need the pandemic for the run up in 2017 either, and then the run up prior to that. So there's examples of run ups in this sector that did not need a global pandemic in order for that to happen. Dude, one of the most interesting things that I have tried to wrap my mind around, but also drawn a hard line in the sand and said I'm never gonna really figure it out. I'm just gonna have to lean on people like Harry Liu, for example, who I'm gonna bring up. Is the Asian market. So if you were around in 16, 17, it was very clear that Asia was involved in what we were doing. They were buying up Bitcoin. They were buying up Tron, for example, was a huge Chinese cryptocurrency. Asia was involved in that stuff. And it had a lot to do with the run-up. With NFTs, though, for me, it was a blind spot, because I'm a lot of these NFTs that we know are around Western culture. or like very westernized. Like, let's be honest, the Bored Ape Yacht Club is two American founders who speak English and are, you know, the community's Western, where you don't have this like feel like, oh, there's a real large Asian contingent in this community. And it's not geared toward that. Like, you didn't see a lot of Bored Ape content that had, you know, Chinese text or was translated in that, and you didn't see that everywhere. So things like this are interesting to me when it comes to the next bull run, in like adding Asia to that context. So this is a very popular Asian singer who is wearing a CryptoPunk dress live on television, or a streaming platform. And apparently she's, you know, again, really popular. This leads me to a Harry Lou thread that I'm going to pull up in just a second. But I'm just super interested in how, if Asia gets involved, and we've already seen that narrative potentially in Azuki. I think some people have thrown that out there, that is one of the reasons Azuki's pumped a lot. But Harry talks about it here. Web3 IP in Asia fashion. Karen Mok, the queen of Hong Kong pop, is taking CryptoPunk's IP by storm on a popular streaming platform in mainland China, thanks to the genius collaboration between Web3 IP and fashion. Like, we saw crypto is getting approved for, you know, exchanges in Hong Kong as well. So I don't know. I thought this was a really cool moment. I don't. Again, yeah. When anything comes with Asia, like, I just have a huge blind spot, and I rely on, again, guys like Harry to bring me up to speed. But it's really bullish for the next bull run when we do have that.
Yeah, I want to do a deeper dive, because I feel like I'm gonna say the same things right now, because to your point, it's a lot of blind spots, and I don't know that much. I'm super, like, I'll just simplify it by saying I'm super bullish on projects that have a large Asian component to them, because I think that their communities are much more loyal and like actual hodlers versus flippers. That's what I've seen. That's why Azuki is held so well. That's why I like things like Captains and their derivatives are doing very well, because that's 9gag Meme Land, which is an Asia-based company. So they just tend to be much more loyal than Western collectors, as far as I understand. And so that's good for floor prices, for holding value, for, you know, you don't see them tanking the same way that a lot of the collections that don't have as much of that collector base tend to do. They connect with their IP. Like Pudgy Penguins is another example, right? That's another actual example of a project that was adopted very early by the Asian community and did tremendously well. So I am very interested to learn more about how to get involved or track, you know, NFTs that are popular in the Asian markets.
Look,
that would be great. So for NFT Go, shout out NFT Go, we love you. That would be a cool thing to be able to track and get data around, is the sort of the global nature of a project and geographic sentiment. I don't know how you would do that. It's probably very difficult, but I'm sure there's different ways that it is possible to create some kind of sentiment analysis around geographies. So I don't know. That could be a really interesting thing.
One thing that I think will be more direct, Gif, and if it's not already happening, I would love to see more of this. But like in a collection like a Bored Ape Yacht Club, I would love to see more. How can I even say this? Like content around that culture with the IP. Like let's be honest. Have you ever seen a Bored Ape cartoon that is like more anime manga?
Isn't Legends of the Mara kind of going that direction? Like they're kind of mecha feeling, and they've got that, you know, I think you even called it manga-esque like art style promo to it. I feel like maybe they are a little bit.
It is,
like they're trying to find the way that they bridge it, you know. I don't know. Maybe not.
I think you make a good point. I just think I also would like to see more like native, like that is using concepts in adapting it to create a more westernized cartoon based thing like manga, like you're talking about. But I would love to see like native Asian or like Chinese or Japanese content around this IP. Like that's what I don't feel like I see. It's a super Western isn't it? Like, am I wrong in saying that? Like
I think it is. I think that's where they originated and most of their target audience has been. So yeah, I think it's a good point. Like, what are they doing to branch out more?
Okay, I've got a couple more stories. We are going to keep this one short because it is a Memorial Day and we want to get out and touch some grass. But I've got a couple more quick news pieces that I want to hit on. I also have that Bitcoin ordinals floor price chart. But GIF, go ahead and stand, dude. Stand for Mercedes right now.
I'm not gonna stand for Mercedes. Mercedes drivers are the absolute worst. But here's okay. All right, you want me to give the optimistic take on it?
So TLDR, Mercedes is coming out with a digital collectible drop, and they
a whole
have this
platform. It seems like it's a whole platform. It's like, I think NXT is not a specific drop. I think it's their own platform. I could be wrong. I look, I'll just, if I'm being nice, I like the website and what they're saying. So, but those are just pretty words. It feels, the way that they're rolling out this website though, feels less marketing buzzwordy and more authentic than, like, for instance, Porsche. Like, when we read those the Porsche marketing materials and like their rollout, it was just buzzword, marketing lingo, buzzword. Is this what you want us to say? Here it is. Like, that's what it felt like to me. And it was also, it was leading with your handout with, here's our expensive NFT, come buy it because we're Porsche. Like, that's what I got out of Porsche, and I didn't like it. I wasn't super bullish on it. This to me is not leading with your handout, like, here's our NFT. This is saying, here's our intention. We're putting up a banner for our digital collectibles. This is our mission, our vision for it. And we're just announcing to the world that we believe in blockchain technology and the future of digital collectibles, and that our version of this is going to be under this NXT banner. So I don't know, man. We've been burned. We've seen so many bad executions. They obviously have to follow through on actually creating some kind of quality or valuable experience here. But reading through their website, I actually liked a lot of what they were saying, at least. Again, those are just pretty words. But it seemed to me like they actually understand the long-term potential of this, and they're not coming at it from a short-term cash grabby, just give us all your money because we're Mercedes type of situation. And again, why is that cool? If indeed they understand this, maybe what they're doing is they're looking at Starbucks, they're looking at Nike. Maybe what they're doing here is they're saying, hey, this is actually a really powerful tool for community and brand building. Let's create something meaningful. And if so, then you have another incredibly famous global brand that is now creating the future of their brand in Web3 and digital collectibles. So that's the hopeful, positive take on it. Yeah. I actually really enjoyed reading through the website, and it made me optimistic. But who knows? They could just put out a bunch of overpriced trash.
Yeah, I mean,
abandon it.
Look, again, when it comes to roadmaps or promises based on, just words, like, we're obviously in this space for the long haul, and we, take in my opinion, a rightfully kind of cautious stance with larger brands that come in and say, hey, we're going to do all this. The one thing I will say is that this looks like more like a proof collective play, doesn't it? Like, you have 3 core collections, you have satellite projects, you have peripheral projects, all centered around potentially the ownership of Mercedes-Benz NXT. Like, maybe there's a core, maybe there's like, you see the core collections, maybe there's one NFT that gets you access or, provides access to the platform, or provides you some like VIP, like membership type experience on this platform. That would be something that I think would be successful based on what they're showing us here, which is that they have multiple different collections lined up to be dropped under this platform.
Yeah. And I would just say this for any brands, agency people out there, anybody who's tapped into big brands that's like curious about the space. This is the value of having awesome, examples like Reddit, Nike and Starbucks now that are starting to do actually interesting things that might make sense is you can point to things that seem to work versus what doesn't work now. Like there's just good case studies to look at. So again, that's why I'm more bullish here. I think that they're taking their time. I don't think they're rushing to market with a bunch of NFTs here. That's what it feels like. Again, I could be wrong. This might be an example where I look back 6 months and I was actually wrong about this one. I could be very, very wrong. But again, you have these massive leading brands, leading consumer brands, global brands like Nike and Starbucks that you can look to now and say, hey, what are they doing different?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the ability to have these projects already launch and have a little bit of a, I don't want to say roadmap because I feel like I've used it, my quote up on this episode, but the ability to like look at that and say, hey, this is where they kind of went wrong, I think is a great take. So, all right, we got two more pieces that I want to hit. GIF, if you got anything you want to touch on as well, let me know. I know the OF1s from Nike surpassed $1 million in sales. That was a big win for Nike, I think. We also have Ubisoft launching Reddit avatars. That was pretty big. And Marty's saying so there will only be another NFT bull run if they print money again. Don't forget about the variable guys. I think that there was a point from 2000 to 2019 that led, there was a significant run up in a lot of different sectors, but tech stock sector was doing phenomenally well. We saw the real estate market do phenomenally well. So there was all these things, but like there wasn't a money print in 2017. Like this is what I'll get back to. Like my previous anecdote of being in another cycle did not need a money print or go burr moment for the 2017 cycle where you saw ETH run from $20 to $1,600 and you saw Bitcoin run from 1,000 to 20K. Like there wasn't a money printer burr moment there. There was like a significant run up over 10 years, but there wasn't a global pandemic and money printer moment.
Yeah, so I want to pull this up as another interesting thing to add into this convo here. But I'll also say, even based on that logic of like the only way there's another NFT bull run is if they print money again, I would just say like, do you really think that they're not going to ever print money again? Like, I don't know. Like, I think that they literally are like the way that our fiat system works right now is that they have to at some point keep printing money. Like, I think they're stuck like with creating more. But anyway, this is one of my favorite people to follow, Raoul Pal. And he's been talking a lot about the exponential age of technology that we're in. And the biggest and most persistent macro trend on Earth that he's pointing out to here is the one that gets the most pushback from many. Maybe even Marty McFly over here might be pushing back on this exponential age of technology and this macro trend here. But yeah, this is the channel that you can watch for the adoption of technology and a lot of tech stocks and all the different indexes around technology and tech adoption since 2009. So yeah, I mean, that's a strong macro trend that I don't think is slowing down, is our adoption of technology, our reliance on technology, and all of this stuff that we're part of with NFTs and metaverse and Web3 is all part of this exponential age of technology.
Yeah, I love the takes that we've had over the last month or two, where as we continued into the bear market, we basically have started to question like, hey, is there going to be another bull run? And kind of question like, hey, what are the features that are going to lead to a project being successful in the next cycle, even if they were around? Because Marty's talking about in the chat, there are only less than 5 quality projects though, so not many new highs is my point. Well, I think that's what we have questioned and pointed out in this time, is saying which ones are going to make it to the next cycle. That's why we keep pointing out Oni Force. That's why we keep pointing out other projects that are in that group, right? So we of course we love the Bored Ape Yacht Club. We are continuously going to be standing for the other side and things like this that look like legit projects. 10KTF is another one. There's a lot of questions around what projects belong in that group, but it feels like we're in like an adolescent stage with a lot of these, which is really cool to see. There are going to be projects, and I keep saying this, that aren't going to make it to next cycle. There just are. Like
it's the majority.
Yeah.
It's like 98% of them aren't. We've been like, Gary Vee was the first one to say it. We like give him some credit. But I think most people understand and agree that the veracity of this is that the vast majority of projects are not going to make it. But there's going to be 1 to 2 to 3% of those OG projects that actually create something meaningful that lasts and holds value long term. I think the other interesting part of that, and the variable, since we're talking about interesting variables, is what are going to be the ones that can still pop off, that are in that long tail, but then get rediscovered and have a renaissance, or something else changes, or the artist dies, or the artist gets famous for some other thing. Like, this is part of the reason why I'm so bullish on DBs and WitchyGF and what we've done, is because we discovered an artist who I think is going to be a world famous artist. Like, I think Sketchnate is going to be at some point in his life. I don't know when. None of this is financial advice, but he's a prolific superstar talent with a brain unlike anybody else that has a unique, iconic style. So it's like, that's part of the reason why I remain so bullish on what we've created, because these things, once they're on chain, they have a chance of being brought back to life at any moment. So I think, yes, there's the like 2% of all the projects, or maybe even 1% of projects that will actually be those like super massive success stories. It'll be the Amazon, the Google, the Facebook. It'll be those companies that popped off. And I'm not saying they're going to be as big as Apple. I'm saying out of the tech bubble, there were certain companies that thrived. Out of this tech bubble, out of the NFT bubble, out of Web3, there will be certain companies that thrive. But then, different from a lot of those companies that just die, some of them can literally just be brought back to life. Some of them can just be infused with new liquidity overnight because of a million different reasons. And that's a really interesting part of this.
It does feel like we're in like kind of the resurrection era for NFTs right now. It does like feel like, okay, we've got like even certain projects are like being handed off and said, oh, we're, kind of making this move. So
I feel like maybe we're just entering into resurrection 0.0. We're still so fucking early in all of this. I think there's going to actually, I think to your point, I think there will actually be a resurrection era of NFTs that'll be like 3, 4, 5 years from now, the first one. You know what I mean? Like, I think there will actually be a time a couple years from now when all of a sudden old NFTs become way fucking more valuable for all different kinds of weird reasons.
Yeah, so you're talking about like the Moon Cats and Ether Rocks.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we'll have a bigger one of those moments for a lot of the projects that have come since those.
I could see that.
But who knows? We could all just be dead by then. The asteroids might destroy us, and another pandemic might turn us all into zombies. So none of this is financial advice, and none of it really matters at the end of the day. Enjoy your life.
We're like balancing between like a really positive episode and like just talking about zombie apocalypse and not dying. So this is not financial advice. All right, so I have this story that I wanted to cover. Stash did a metaverse tier list. I think we should look into this. But he like added Fortnite and Meta and Other Side, and I wanted to kind of give some commentary here and maybe create our own on Rate My Bags. But I feel like we'll do that tomorrow. Like, we can just hit this story tomorrow, talk about ranking the metaverses. Because the story that I want to cover with last is going to be just following up with Reddit Avatars here. So we covered the launch of Reddit Avatars, obviously. That was a really big moment. I think we'll look back, I think, in the NFT histories, and that will be a strong moment in time when Reddit Avatars launched. But now we have another collection dropping, the Rabbids, which is kind of bringing a little bit more eyes back to Reddit Avatars. So let's look at this really quick and then get some commentary on it. All right, Reddit collectible avatars, the Rabbids. What could you not want?
I fucking love it, man. It's Reddit's continuing to build through big partnerships with massive gaming publishers and famous video game IP. Come on. This is exciting. This is fucking cool. As small as this may seem, it shows where everything's going and that people are still like creating. The fact that Ubisoft keeps innovating and now is doing interesting partnerships with big communities and collections like this, I think is just so bullish. And if you want to share my screen, we can look at these. So I was able actually to get one. This already happened. I thought I missed the boat, but Chris, PR Guitar Man, see that one that said 34.1K left? You might still be able to get this last rabbit. It's totally free. If you go onto Reddit, this is what they look like. These are them. So there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 of these different characters, and this is the one that I got, and that's the last one left. But they're totally free. And again, if you go into Reddit and you go down to style avatar, that's where all of this stuff is. And yeah, all of these are Polygon assets. So again, I collected quite a few on Polygon early on. I probably overpaid a little bit for the time, but maybe some of these early Reddit avatars will actually be pretty valuable in the future. I don't know. That was my bet, but obviously it was an early bet and we have no idea. But
so I just claimed my Night Rabbit.
Let's
actually.
Go.
So this says they resolve disputes in the noble way with a plunger, joust, stand out in comments, add a card to your profile, mix with other avatar gear, collectible part of a series. You own your own collectible, transferable via the blockchain. So this is that Reddit Vault feature, which I think they've done a great job on. So yeah, there you go.
Is that your first one?
Looks like it.
Yo, there you go.
I'm out here.
We out here, fam. Love to see it, man. Well, welcome to the NFT, the Reddit Avatar family, Nifty Q.
Love it, man. That's sick. Yeah, that was actually super easy to do. I mean, you set up the vault in 0.5 seconds, and
that's how you do it.
Yep.
They made it so you now have a custodial crypto wallet, just like I think like 5 million new people or something, right?
Yep.
It's some crazy. I remember it was like over 4 million or something new wallets, so it's probably around like 5 million or something at this point.
Yeah. I mean that is to your point the way that you do it. I think most people wouldn't even know that they're like having a custody wallet.
Didn't. Yeah. It's a Trojan horse, man. And all of that is happening where? On Polygon.
Polygon, baby. All right, we are going to get up out of this episode here in just a moment. Thank you guys for tuning in on this Memorial Day. I know you guys are all over the place, so if you're listening afterwards, we get a ton of viewership after the show as well. Thank you guys for tuning in, either post steak, post burger, post hot dog. You guys are awesome. We appreciate the family coming through all the time, the tribe members coming through all the time. So thank you so much. I'm not battling any macro market FUD here at the end of the episode. I need to end this on a positive note here, even though Crow started us off on a bad foot. Hopefully that gets handled as well.
It's our specialty is starting out on just like the most negative headlines and news that we possibly can. It's how we love to ease into a Monday morning.
You know what Marty is saying that I was going to bring up in that talk about like what's around? I think the 3 that he just mentioned are 100% in a category of like, I think Doodles maybe comes out of it, but I think those 3 are definitely in that, like using the anecdote for ICOs, some of the biggest projects that didn't come back. Like, and then maybe that's a wild take, but those 3 are 100% like in a realm of like, oh, like if you guys keep fucking up, you won't be a part of the next bull run. And it was wild to say at the time with some of the ICO projects that were like, I'm talking top 10, top 20 on CoinMarketCap, that you were like, oh no, for sure. In 2019 or 2020, whenever we come out of this winter that nothing is being developed in, those coins will definitely come back. And people held to the bitter end. And Cool Cats and Doodles and Moonbirds are 100% in that category. I'm telling you. So that's a really good take, actually, Marty.
Where are gutter cats in that conversation?
Gutter cats is almost like a formality at this point. It feels like in some of it, it's like,
Oh, yeah, that one hurts, man. Because I sunk a fair amount of ETH into that news about them launching a token, and that may have been a loss. But anyway, yeah, we don't want to end on just a negative note here. I did have a thought that maybe this can just be a question that we pose here at the end for anybody that wants to have a think on it and come back and maybe talk about it tomorrow or something. And that's that when you were talking about Bored Ape Yacht Club and Other Side, and the fact that it feels like there's a lull even in like short windows of time when there's not a whole lot of like new announcements and content being created. It made me like, I already felt this way about certain collections that were building games, but it made me start to think about basically all of these big NFT collections and the IP with the story. Pretty much any of these collections I've realized are basically treated like live services at this point. And so so I just want to see what y'all think, right? So I'll just throw this out there. We don't have to go down a whole rabbit hole. And Nifty Q, maybe you can think on it, or we can talk about similarities, differences, if this is. And just to be clear what I'm talking about, a live service is a video game model where it's ongoing. And basically, it's usually free to enter or cheap to get into. And then they add a bunch of DLC, and the whole game is just updated constantly. It's alive. It's being serviced constantly with new content and updates, and that's how it lives. It just has to keep going, and that's how and when you don't do that, when you take a break, it all breaks down. The floor goes down, and everybody stops. And so I don't know that I ever really thought about all of these NFT projects like a live service, that like if you're just not constantly updating with more content and speculation and things, then the floors just go down and nobody cares immediately. But I'm starting to feel more and more like all of these NFT projects are basically a live service video game.
I think that's a really interesting take. I'm obviously a gamer myself, and I've thought different ways about NFTs and their integration into games and how that looks and all that stuff. I've always viewed it, and it sucks to say, but I've always viewed isn't that how the stock market works? You know, like
it's a gamified engagement, and well, because so much of it rests upon the perception of value, right? Perceived value, and how do you keep that alive in people's minds and at the forefront? It has to be this live service gamification of engagement. Like, you have to constantly be, here's a new thing. Here's a new thing. Oh, we're doing this thing next week. Here it is. It's like, so I don't know. That was just a thought that I had, is like looking at these NFT projects, like they're all live service video games. Yeah. And they're just gamifying engagement.
Let's break that down a little bit more tomorrow, potentially. The way that I've seen NFTs, and I'll just reiterate, like that to me is how a lot of stock price works, with your ability to update and release good earnings and talk about what's coming next, are all things that drive speculative value into something like a stock price. So I know that sucks to say, because people are like, NFTs aren't securities, and I don't think they should be, because security is a very like black and white kind of line in the sand that you would draw, and then you would see innovation in NFTs come to a grinding halt if the SEC came out and said these are all securities. But in some way, they do reflect speculative value into what the people can pull off. Unlike maybe a CryptoPunk, for example, like punks are not about future value. You know, when it comes to, let me rephrase that. Punks are not about future utility, future use case. Punks are just punks, in a sense. So let's break it down tomorrow. I'm definitely down to unpack that a little bit. Thank you guys for tuning in again on Memorial Day. If you were out celebrating, we appreciate you guys as well, but especially a good appreciation post here for you guys that are tuning in on your Memorial Day. Thank you so much for tuning in throughout. We are going to be back tomorrow with the GM Web3 show, as well as NFT Live. I'm doing an interview pre-NFT Live. So, GIF, I will not be there in the back half of tomorrow's GM Web3, and at 12 o'clock Eastern to 1 p.m. Eastern, I'll be interviewing. And let me make sure I got it right. Oh, I'm interviewing Baron von Hustle from the other side, or the other space. So that should be a good one. I'm gonna try drop any questions you have in the comments on NFT Live or whenever, because we're gonna touch on the other side like almost exclusively. And like I've needed somebody to be bringing me that alpha, or at least bringing me the information, somebody that's in that game 24/7 basically, or at least the development around it.
Well, heck yeah. Our vibe, our tribe. Throw a thumbs up at us. We appreciate it. Smash it. Thank you, fam. Happy Memorial Day.
Peace out. Thank you, guys.